Hey guys, I did see all of your comments asking about a product breakdown for this bridal makeup look I did on my bride Kenzie, and in this video I'm going to do my very best to give you every single product that I used to achieve this exact makeup look. If I miss a step or a certain product, unfortunately that means that I don't remember what I used for this particular step. So let's start with skin prep. For skin prep, first I used the Sephora Glow Peel pads to exfoliate the skin. Next I went in with the Laneige Cream Skin Toner. After that, I used the Laneige Makeup Serum. Then as a moisturizer, I used the Bobbi Brown Vitamin E Enriched Face Base. And I used also the Bobbi Brown eye cream. It's the same packaging, but it's an eye cream. I also moisturized the lips with the Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask. You can use whatever for the lips. And then I started working on the eyes. So for eyeshadow primer, I always use the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer in the original formula. I then blended with my beauty blender, wet beauty blender. I used the Pow Pow beauty blenders. And then I set the concealer with the Laura Mercier translucent powder, again with my wet beauty blender. And then I start applying the eyeshadows. So I don't have all of the names of the eyeshadows that I used, but I did use the P. Louise Wedding palette, and some of the shades that I used from this palette are these two shades right here. The name is Pledged and Connection, and I also used this shade right here. It's almost gone, but it is like a light pink. And that is Bond. The name is Bond. So I use this in the crease to create this like pinky peachy color, and then I used as a next eyeshadow color a bronzer shade. So you just use a bronzer that you will use on the face for your specific client. The bronzer that I used is from Gucci, and it's in the shade number 3. Then, before I applied the shimmer, I used a little bit of Shape Tape Concealer again on her lids. I was not doing a cut crease or anything like this. I was just applying it so that my shimmers can stick better to the eyes. For shimmers, I used the Dior Glow Face palette in the color 001 Universal, and the shades that I use on her lid was the bronzy shade right here mixed with the pink to create this like bronzy but kind of a little bit pinky eyeshadow look. She wanted to add some pink to her eyes on her wedding day compared to her trial when we did just like more of a bronzy eye look. For eyeliner, I use a brown gel liner. This is the one from Maybelline. Any brand is fine. This is just like a dark brown gel eyeliner. Then for lashes, she already had lash extensions, which were really beautiful. Typically, I hate lash extensions, but hers were very nice. So all I did is use some individual lashes. The ones I used are from Amazon. I don't have them anymore. They were just like a random Amazon brand of individual lashes. So I used those to create a little bit more drama, open up her eyes, and manipulate the shape of her eyes a little bit. Moving on to her complexion, I used 2 foundations that I mixed together. So I used the NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation mixed with the Dior Backstage Face and Body Foundation. So I mixed these together and I applied them all over her skin with, again, a wet beauty blender. For concealer under her eyes, again, I used the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and to contour her face, I used the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in the shade Chocolate. After I finished with my cream contour and highlight, I use another type of foundation. I use the Era Face Foundations. These are aerosol foundations. They are a spray-on foundation. I usually spray it on my makeup palette, and again with my wet sponge I dip it in the product and I apply it on the face. What I did with these foundations is I use a dark shade to go over the perimeter of her face, or where I applied the cream contour, and then I used a lighter shade to go in the middle of the face and blend everything together. The reason why I use these foundations on top of everything else is just because typically I do a full coverage makeup application for most of my brides, or at least this is what this specific bride requested. And these are also waterproof and they work very well in humid, hot weather. And the wedding was in Charleston, South Carolina, where it's very humid. So this is another layer of protection and making sure that my makeup is waterproof, smudge proof, tear resistant, and all this other good stuff. After I'm finished with all of my creams, I go into setting the face with powders. The first area that I set is under the eyes. So under the eyes, I used the Mario loose setting powder. Then for the whole entire face, I also used that powder with my wet beauty blender again. After I set the face with loose powder, I go with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish pressed powders. So I apply a couple different colors of these. I use the shade number 4 to go on the perimeter of her face, kind of acting as a contour and bronzer. Then I use the shade 3 kind of all over her face, and then the shade 2 to go under her eyes and brighten. I use a brush to apply the pressed powders. After the powders, I am bronzing the face with the Gucci bronzer, the same bronzer that I use on her eyes, and this is the color number 3. And then I go into my blush. For blush, I use the Dior blush in the color 001 Pink. Now, this is a very cool tone pink blush color, but because of her skin tone, this color is pulling up a little bit more peachy and corally on her skin tone. If I use it on me, it will be very much this color. But this is my favorite blush and I use it on almost 90% of my brides. Next, I went in with the Dior highlighter palette again, and I use this pink highlighter shade as a blush topper, so I apply it everywhere where I apply the blush on top of the blush. And then as a highlighter, I use the Stila highlighter. This is the Heaven's Hue highlighter in the color Kitten. This is how it looks. This is an extremely pretty highlighter that gives your skin this very glowy, wet look, kind of like glow from within. For eyebrows, I use the Benefit Precisely My Brow pencil. I lightly filled in her brows because she already had a very good natural shape, so I didn't do too much on the brows. For her lower waterline, I used a off-white color, and this is actually from NYX Pro Fix Stick. This you can use for like multiple areas on your face for different purposes. This is the color that I use. It's just like a nude off-white color. You can use any type of gel or a pencil liner for that step. For her lower lash line, I use the same exact shadows that I used on the top. So the peachy pinky shadows from the P. Louise palette, and then the bronzer underneath to match what's going on the top of her eye. And lastly, for lips, I used Morphe lip liner in the color Makeup Talk, then Kim KW lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury. Then I used Gucci lipstick in the color Lorna Dune, just in the middle of her lips. And for lip gloss, I used Buxom White Russian. Last step, I set the face with this setting spray. This is the Melanie Mills Hollywood Super Light Long Lasting Setting Spray. This is the best setting spray that exists in the market. Listen to me when I tell you this. Don't use one size. use this one. You need this setting spray. It is amazing. So this is everything I used for this makeup look. Thank you guys again for the love.